Hello and welcome back to Master Gardening. I'm your host, Bud Qualk, and it's colder than a well digger's you know what out here today, 26 degrees. But we're here today with James Sanders Nursery and their landscaping crew, and we're going to show you why this is the weather and this is the time of the year to do your gardening. This is Crystal Sanders, and how in the heck did you get hooked up with Larry and Carol? How did you get in the landscape business?
Well,
You're
actually,
their daughter, right?
Yes, I'm their daughter. That's how I got hooked up with
you
them.
kind of got drafted in, yeah.
I've just always been in the family business. Dad's been in it all his life. My grandfather started it.
Are you planning to continue?
Oh yes, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. And I've got a younger sister that's a landscape architect.
And you're on Schneidman Road right now.
Yes.
Now, how long has the business been there?
Since 1957.
That's before I was even born, Tammy. But before that, it was where?
It was downtown. It was known as the Sanders Brothers Nursery.
In the 30s and 40s, maybe?
Yes.
And
way before my time.
Way before your time? You were a
Yes.
glint, and never mind. So the Sanders brothers, so it was...
my grandfather,
James,
and one of his brothers.
Okay. And they decided to sell out and go out, and they got probably grew the area probably downtown,
Yes.
and it was very expensive to buy more land. Okay.
Moved out on Schneidman.
And right now, your dad Larry and his wife Carol run the business.
Yes.
And they've been doing that ever since they were kids, maybe.
My dad has been in it all his life. Yes.
Okay. And you're going to continue on. You
Yes.
said, yeah.
That's the plan.
Okay. And so, how big an operation is it? I know I've been out there. Do you mainly in McCracken County?
Oh no, we travel everywhere.
Into Illinois and
Into Illinois, on up in the eastern part of Kentucky, and we do
sell
highway work.
And I noticed that they were building now, and maybe a relative of yours on the 45 going to Mayfield, that Kubota.
That's
place.
Sanders Kubota.
Sanders Kubota.
That's ours.
And it's got any other places like that floating around?
No, not right now.
When you get your place, you're going to get your own place?
No, I'll just stick with right there on Schneidman Road.
Now, I know you're into horses too, right? Next door?
Yes.
Yeah. Do you show horses, ride horses?
Yes, I do. When I get a chance.
Yeah.
The nursery keeps me pretty busy. So.
I was going to say, I'm associated with the nurseries and stuff a lot, and I don't see where there's any time.
There's not much.
Yeah.
It's the perks of your parents owning the business. Sometimes you can kind of sneak out and try to catch them.
Do you kind of coordinate that though, the horse manure, nursery?
Actually, yes, we do.
Do you really?
We sell the horse manure.
You sell it?
Yes.
You bag it and sell it right there?
No, we sell it by the bulk.
Oh, bulk. And the people go into the stalls and get it themselves? Or
No.
do you deliver?
No.
I've done that. I know it's no fun.
Our guys clean it out, and we pile it up there at the nursery, and then we load it up for them.
Okay, do you use straw in there or
it's
sawdust?
It's sawdust.
That's the best. Yeah, that's the easiest.
Yep.
That straw is tough getting out of there. I've done it both ways.
Yes. It's pretty good, clean compost.
Yeah. Is there anybody else in the family that's involved, or are you going to have it by yourself someday?
Well, I've got my cousin Eddie that heads up the crews and makes sure everybody, is...
Isn't he heavily involved in the Kubota thing over in Mayfield?
No.
I got that confused
No, Lynn Harper takes care of it.
Okay, you and Eddie.
Yes, and then I've got my cousin Chris now that handles the John Deere, the implement part of the nursery.
The John Deere's right out of the
It's
nursery?
with us on Schneidman Road.
On Schneidman Road? Okay, so it's going to be a family thing. It's going to be your third generation. Is there going to be a fourth generation?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know.
Time's a-clicking.
Yes, and then I'll have my sister. Eventually, she plans to come back too. She's a landscape architect, currently in Atlanta, and she plans to
that's right.
come home one of these days.
Yeah. And it's okay, so you and her will continue on the...
That's right.
Instead of the brothers, it'll be the sisters.
That's right.
Oh, my.
That is right. So watch out.
Well, I really appreciate you letting us come out here and visit and watch what you're doing.
Well, I'm glad that y'all did.
Because this is so freezing. I know you've been standing around freezing to death today.
It's a little chilly.
26 degrees. We picked the coldest day of the year. This may be the coldest day of the year all year. I don't know.
I've been spoiled with that 70-degree weather.
Thank everybody back there.
I'll do it.
And
thank you.
Thanks for coming.
Thanks.
Well, we're trimming these boxwoods, and you want to wait till late enough that they don't come out with new growth.
Someday, I'll be a ballerina, just like them. And this will be my stage, where I twirl and float and swirl for all the people looking at me. Someday, this won't just be my wish. Someday, I won't be sick.
Okay, Dan Bell, landscaping expert with James Sanders Nursery. What do we got going here today? You're doing some pruning, but how come you're waiting until the middle of winter to do your pruning?
Well, we're trimming these boxwoods, and you want to wait till late enough that they don't come out with new growth after it gets cold enough.
What's wrong with the new growth?
The new growth, if it comes out late and it doesn't have time to harden off before winter, can actually get damaged by a cold snap like we're having right now today.
That brown winter kill you see in the spring on the
That's
roses
right.
and stuff. Okay. Does that go with all shrubs and trees? Wait till maybe they go dormant?
Yeah, a
or
lot
not?
of shrubs. A lot, some you have to watch out for that bloom in the spring. You don't want to trim them late in the fall.
And
Cut
what are a
off the
couple of
blooms.
those? You're supposed to prune them after they bloom, and what can you name some of those?
Azaleas, forsythia, any of your spring blooming plants.
Okay, so if you see it blooming in the spring, as soon as wait till it gets done, and don't prune it again in the fall then, right?
That's right.
Okay. Okay, I see you're planting some shrubs over here. Let's go over here and take a look at what these guys are doing over here. Dan, you're planting some shrubs over here, and it looks like you're doing some gravel in here also. Boy, that looks a cold job right there. He doesn't have any gloves on. Holy.
Well, he needs some gloves. I need some too myself.
Oh, you just
actually.
called. You need some
That's
gloves. You're replacing some shrubs here?
These are spreading yews. Nice evergreen. Does well. It's very hardy plant.
Did maybe did you have some bad luck on some other ones, or these?
Yes, I think this is an area that is being refurbished, if you want to say that word.
Yeah, and this is brand new patio you're putting in here.
Yes, this is a brand new walkway with the stones on the side.
And I see you pruned this one also, and that hard growth. You can tell by looking at this one right here. What we're talking about hard growth is it's got brown. It's kind of browned up and got hard, and then at the end there, the greener it is,
Yes.
the more susceptible it is to the winter kill that you see on the shrubs.
Yes.
Okay, what else we got going around the back? Can we planting some of these? You got, or are you done? You got
I think we can plant some of these.
Okay, this is the best time of the year to do what? To plant your shrubs and trees.
It's an excellent time to plant shrubs and especially trees because they're dormant now.
What's the advantage over planting in the spring?
Well, a lot of times in the spring, I mean, the conditions are great for planting, but
Warmer.
it's warmer. But the
freezing
plants
out here.
don't have enough time to get settled in before that first summer. And the first summer is usually the hardest on most plants.
But the plants don't grow in the winter.
They don't grow in the winter, but the roots can grow as long as it's 40 degrees and over.
Yeah, and that's the key to getting it to
That
the last
is.
of that summer drought. The next
That's
year,
right.
get the roots down and they're good. Okay.
That's right.
Let's go around to the back here and see and plant some of these.
Okay.
things. Dan, we're sitting here at one of your landscape jobs, and I see your guys are busy back there.
Yes.
Putting some of those plants in. First of all, how did you get started in the landscape business? Did you go to University of Auburn and take veterinarian school, or what?
That's what I did, yeah. And I didn't like animals, so I decided to go with plants. No, actually, I just got a job working at the nursery, just doing anything. And then it kind of evolved into that I was designing. And then after that fact, I took some classes about that and kind of continuing education type
Now you're the
situation.
main man.
No,
huh?
no.
No?
No.
I see is this for this job you're doing right here today?
Yes, that is.
Well, this looks very complicated, and I know because I started doing some of this stuff, and it looks awful easy, but it's pretty tough. The spacing and all that stuff has to be pretty close, right?
Well, you want to space your plants, based on how they're going to grow eventually. A lot of people, it seems like they make a mistake if they got a little 1 gallon plant. They'll plant them really close. not knowing or not realizing that those plants are going to get
That's a majority
as
of the
big-
time, I think.
Well, as big as a ball and burlap plant that's already 3 feet
So
tall.
it looks good quick, but in
That's right. Then later on, it's like, well, I planted this plant too close. It needs to come out. And really, if the spacing had been right, then that plant could last for 15, 20 years.
or planting a tall thing underneath a wire, or a tall thing in
Exactly.
front of a window, and all of a sudden the window's covered, and
You see that a lot.
yeah.
Or planting like a willow oak tree under power lines, something like that.
So you not only you got to choose a plant, but you got to choose a plant by its variety, because some plants, one variety is small, one's tall.
That's right.
That kind of thing, spreading,
The right plant for the right spot.
and shade and sun and all that.
All of that.
So it's all scientific. And then you've got to make the customer happy too.
This is true. I mean, certain people have, some clients have their likes and dislikes. And they might not want a boxwood or whatever it is, and some people just love that. So,
Flowering, non-flowering.
exactly. And some
Yeah.
people, I've had people that say, I don't want anything that flowers.
Yeah. And they want this plant, but this plant's good for Florida, but it's not good for Kentucky.
Well, that happens quite a bit too. They'll especially see something on one of the TV shows. And they'll
TV
say,
shows now, don't say anything bad about TV shows.
Nothing wrong about TV
Okay.
shows, but they'll see something on one of the shows that's for the entire country.
Yes.
And maybe a plant is good in southern Florida or southern California that just won't grow here.
Yeah, my counterpart, P. Allen Smith, right?
Oh, well, I'm not going to say anything bad about P. Allen.
Oh, your hands freezing as much
They
as
are
I.
freezing, they are
26
cold.
degrees out here today.
We picked a good day.
Yeah, yeah. So, who are your customers? Just residents?
Residential,
businesses,
commercial, churches,
schools?
all schools, yes, all
Yeah,
kinds of stuff.
yeah. Everything's landscape these days.
Yes. You see some houses that aren't landscaped still, but a lot of people want curb appeal.
What's the first
Their
step in
property.
landscaping?
Usually meeting with the homeowner or the customer.
Getting a plan.
Well, and then eventually get a plan, but you get their likes and dislikes and what their intentions are for the property sometimes too. If they're going to have a pool, or if they're going to have a play area for their kids, or a running area for their dogs, or just what they need for their property.
That's right.
And then-
Everybody's different.
That's right. And work that into their plan. Usually come up with a design like this, and that has all that laid out, so they can kind of visualize it a little bit, and then plan it. Like
You
we
do that
talked about.
virtual stuff they have now? Do you do any of that stuff?
We have had that through computer processing. Yes, we have had that.
Yeah. So it almost looked like the real thing.
That's right.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, what are you doing today? I mean, what exactly have we got planned?
Well,
for-
in this particular situation, they had some existing plants, but they needed some additional plantings and some refurbishing and some trimming, just to kind of spruce it up a little bit.
and
that-
the
that can
leaf guy
happen.
never showed up today, right?
No, he did not show up yet, and he's on the way, I've heard.
So what kind of plants are you going to plant? You're planting today? I noticed.
He's actually planting right now Hellery holly, which is a low-growing holly. This is euonymus. I think this is emerald gaiety. Yes.
Are you going to alternate these things around the pool here?
This is going to be kind of a ground cover around the other ones.
Ah.
Just
How,
stays
how
low.
tall does that get?
Well, it
Not as
actually
tall
is
as it is?
considered a ground cover, but it will actually send up shoots that'll be a little
Mm-hmm.
taller that need to be cut off, but it's basically considered a ground cover.
Have you ever had any problem with powdery mildew with this?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
and
mine-
scale.
Yeah. That's the one thing that you got to be careful with. There are resistant varieties now, and that's another thing, resistant varieties, especially when you get into roses and things like that.
Especially for roses. Now, I'm not aware of resistant varieties on euonymus, but the main thing is if you spray them, at the right time, you can take care of those problems.
If you've got a gardener, it's really helpful, isn't
It is helpful, or you can get us to do it.
On a regular maintenance, that's
That's
right.
right, we
That's
do
another
that.
thing you do.
do.
Besides planting, you do the maintenance,
That's right,
lawn mowing even.
we do.
Okay, mulching.
We basically do it all.
Yeah, yeah. But you're outsourcing your leaf pickup, right?
Well,
I'm just kidding. It's really getting cold. Let's go around the front and look at those roses we were talking about.
Okay.
Okay.
Sounds
That's
good.
one of my favorite plants.
okay. I think this is Floribunda.
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 So many kids' activities today seem to leave out the activity part. New research tells us that just getting children to walk an extra 35 minutes a day could spare them the pain of thinning bones later in life. Encourage your kids to get up, get out, and get moving.
Hello.
Hey, Grandma, how about another grape soda?
For more advice on how kids can build strong bones, visit aaos.org. A public service message from the American Academy of Orthopedic Surgeons.
Dan, you got a rose bush. You said it's a knockout rose?
Yes.
And what kind of rose is that? It's not a tea rose, is it?
I think this is a Floribunda.
A Floribunda.
Floribunda, which you have clusters of blooms, but they're a little bit smaller than your hybrid tea blooms.
Oh my, yeah, look, you can see this thing was really loaded not long ago.
Yeah, it's still blooming.
Still blooming, and matter of fact, right before we get the heavy frost, almost everybody's roses start looking really good.
Right, and then see right here you have, this is a bud that yet to open. Bud.
Bud. Mr. Bud. We're going to dig the hole here, and that's going to be interesting because everybody wants to know how to plant their roses. I mean, that's one of the most common questions. What do you do with your roses? How do you plant them? And most people plant them in the spring, which you can plant them in the fall just like everything else,
You
right?
can.
It
Yes,
just is
you
good?
can. Well, this particular kind is in a pot, so you don't really plant it any differently than you would another shrub. A lot of times people get roses bare root or just with peat moss around them, and so in that situation it's a little different. You have to spread the roots out and dig a hole big enough for the roots to fit in naturally without cramping them. But in this case, these are grown in pots, so they can be planted year-round.
And I noticed how he did that, and I do that sometimes. Oh, what is that, a water hose over there?
Let's hope not.
That is a soaker hose we just cut in two.
Well,
oh my. Hey, that's another thing. I've got soaker hoses all around my house. I don't have those special watering systems, but when you cut a soaker hose, you might as well go ahead and pull it up. But that's probably an old one, you know?
that looks like an old one.
That's
there.
an old one nobody's using anymore, I hope. Or is that the electrical power? And that's another. Normally, you don't dig deep enough to get into the electrical power of the watering.
No, you don't. And usually in those situations, you call Bud and have them mark the lines.
Yeah, the electric company or the cable company or something like that.
Yes.
A lot of good clay in there. But is it? And there's different philosophies on what you put in the hole when you get done.
Well, in this particular case, this is an older planting. Like I said, we're redoing a little bit of some of the stuff. And what happens is this mulch actually builds up and almost helps add organic matter to the soil. So in this case, you do have the clay soil, but you have some of this working in with it. So a lot of times it's not necessary in this situation to add extra enrichment or organic
I know when
matter.
I first started out gardening, I always put the best soil you could ever think of in the hole. And then if you come to my house now, I've got a couple trees that have to be staked all the time because the roots don't want to leave that hole.
Right.
So since then, it's so much easier just to stick that baby in there and not put a bunch of stuff in there with it.
This is true. You don't need a lot of extra stuff. If the soil is really a lot of clay, it's not bad to add peat moss, sand, anything that'll help break that clay up a little bit.
And if you got a real dry, I know you might want to put water in there, let it soak up first before you put the plant in. But I think we've had this last tornado rain deal yesterday. I think we're in good shape right now. That soil looks there pretty moist.
Yeah, it's pretty decent. But I think the water table was already so low that we're still dry overall.
Now, how are you going to water this thing? Are you going to fill it in a little bit, then water it, tamp it, or anything like that? Or sometimes that's important. I don't think all the time.
No,
what do you think?
it's not always important. It depends on what the conditions are of the soil and what the plant is. But I don't think it's necessarily. We usually put water after we get them all planted and all settled in.
Now, when he took that pot off that plant, I noticed the roots where you could see the roots here and there. Now, sometimes you'll take it off there and they'll be just real strong and circled, and just solid roots. Do you ever do anything with those special? Do you break those loose?
You can take your hands and just pull those roots loose a little bit. In severe cases, you can take a knife and cut the roots and then pull them loose so that they'll get out into that surrounding soil. Like
what causes that to do that?
Well, sometimes a plant is actually in the pot just a little bit too long. And with vigorous root growth, they probably might need to be moved up to the next size pot to encourage new growth.
We continue to tell our listeners that when you go to do these nurseries and whatever, that it's okay to take that pot off and look at the roots before you buy it.
Yes, it is.
Because I know of a person that when they got home, they took the plant out and there was no roots in it at all. It was a little tiny plant in a big pot. And
part of that is the fact that nurseries get plants in. They might be bare root and they're just potted. So if you come to the nursery after that happens, then it's no fault of anyone's. It's just the situation. So
It's been potted up.
and the plant can still survive just fine like that.
We talked about the powdery mildew back on the Anonymous, and by the way, powdery mildew, what exactly is that?
Well, it's a fungus that can get on a lot of plants, and it can get on roses.
On the leaves?
Yes, on the leaves usually, and you can see it. It looks like a milky, just a covering of the leaf. There's none on this
that
plant.
one, no.
But
But
what
it's-
it is, if it was on here, it would be milky, and you could rub it off with your hand.
And
you
what
can see
exactly is that?
It's a fungus.
Fungus,
It's a
yeah.
fungus disease, and what you normally do, especially on roses, you spray those regularly, like about every 7 to 10 days.
With a fungicide.
Yes.
And there's a bunch of those out there now. You can get your choice. You just
Yes.
ask the salesman or the clerk at the store for fungicide. They can give you 1 or 2 or 3 or 4, and they even.
That's right.
The last rose guy I talked to, he said you want to rotate them. You don't want to get to put the same fungicide on
You
all the
do.
time.
You can use one as your main one, and then every maybe third time switch to another one just to help prevent those diseases.
And powdery mildew can get on anything, and I've seen it on trees.
Oh yeah,
It depends on the weather and that kind of thing, I guess.
that's true.
But there's one disease that we haven't mentioned yet that goes with roses. It's the scourge of rose production. What is that?
Well, especially in our area, is black spot, and that is the worst because it makes the leaves look so bad.
And let's talk. I know customers or the viewers know they've seen it on their roses, but what exactly is it? How does it start? Where does it come from?
Well, again, it's a fungus, and it's just, I guess it's airborne and soil-borne, and it comes from other roses, and
Starts at the bottom.
the main thing it does is turns the leaves eventually yellow. And that's where people really first notice it, is they see the yellowing of the leaves.
And doesn't it come out of the soil really initially and works its way up the plant?
Yes, that's right.
So if you're watering, the worst thing you can do is splash that soil up on the bottom of the leaves from the soil.
Right, and normally on roses, especially, you don't want to water the foliage.
Oh,
You want to water at the root.
that goes along with most plants.
That's right.
Some plants doesn't bother too much, but I do the same thing on my tomato plants and everything. I always water the soil if I can help it.
That's right.
The sprinkler's not good. Okay. Are you going to prune this or anything before winter, or is that just going to leave it like that till
We
spring?
probably won't prune this right now. We'll wait a little while to prune it.
Okay. And I know sometimes after I prune my roses, I see winter kill in the spring where it's killed 3 or 4 inches. So you're just going to leave it like this till spring, winter?
Well, we may prune it back just a little bit, but your main pruning needs to be in the spring on roses.
Okay. Okay. And real quickly, exactly what kind of pruning will you do on that? I know we don't want to go into it too much right now. We'll have another show where we'll demonstrate that. But you prune it back to about how high?
I would probably prune this one back to about here, maybe. Something like this, in the next week or so.
And then in the spring, you go all the way down?
Well, you can go a little further if there's damage. Now, you don't have to on this type of rose.
Okay.
On a hybrid tea rose, for example, you normally go 8 to 10 inches from the ground in the spring. And that stimulates new growth from down low. It's what you want.
We noticed that there's some bagworms on this Japanese maple. Let's talk about that while we're here.
It's hard to leave a company that's been good to me for so long, huh? But I am moving on to greener pastures. I'm going to start my own company. First, I'm going to cash out my 401k, and then I'm off to travel around the world.
Don't make the wrong move with your 401k plan. Learn about rollovers and protecting your financial future, and choose to save.
Maybe it was something I said.
Okay, while we're here, we noticed that there's some bagworms on this Japanese maple. Let's talk about that while we're here. Here's one right here, and they're not in there now, though, are they, in the wintertime?
No, they're already gone. But this is evidence that they were on there back early in the spring and then through the summer.
What's the best way to handle bagworms? I know if you got a small tree like this, you can just pick them off.
You can, and
I
really,
have seen.
in this case, the thing to do to make this tree look better would be to pick those off. But malathion or just a bagworm killer that you could spray on there when they're actively eating.
And they're only in there for a short period of
That's
time
right.
we were talking
That's
about
right.
earlier.
And what they do, the bagworms actually eat the foliage. So they can really make a plant look bad.
Other than the bags hanging
That-
on there,
that-
looks like crap to begin with.
The bags are the worst part. They eat the foliage, and that makes it look really bad.
And if you don't pull them off there, it's going to get worse every year?
That's
or-
right. They
Okay.
do get worse every year.
So if you see one or two, you need to get rid of them and then save yourself a lot of trouble.
That's right.
The next year. Okay. Well, I know you're going to replace some more shrubs over here. Let's tell me about these shrubs over
Okay.
here, Dan.
Shot, okay.
Dan, what in the heck happened to this thing? And I know there's one on the other side looks just like it.
Well, you know, there's been some bagworms on here, and there may have been some red spider mites.
Drought?
Well, it's unusual because there's green on the back side, and I just almost wonder if maybe wind burn. The wind may be whipping in here, the way this is kind of a cove-like little thing.
Both of them are half good and half bad. You
yeah.
look on this side, it looks like
Both
a
of them are
perfect
the same.
plant.
But right here, Bud, there's new growth coming out. So I don't know, it's kind of puzzling.
You think he just didn't like this spot?
It could be. It could be that this spot was bad.
You're going to replace it, right?
We're going to replace this with another type of topiary.
A different kind.
That's right.
I would say that'd be excellent thinking, because this may just be accidentally, and if you haven't had that, you put a plant, it doesn't like that place, but you move it 3 feet the other way, and it loves it.
You see that so much. Somebody will say, well, I moved this from the front yard because I didn't like it, and I moved it back here, and now it's thriving.
Yeah.
And you see that a lot, you really do.
And especially around houses, landscaping, there may be something in the soil you don't know's in there. I know some new houses, especially if some sheetrock or something.
Sure.
One piece right underneath that plant or something, yeah.
That does happen. And soil can be different, 2 feet over.
Yeah.
It can be really good here and just horrible.
Somebody
over
poured
there.
a can of gasoline out there in the old days.
Yeah.
And, that never happened before. No oil.
Dumped out, some kind of solvent that they use for painting or whatever.
So, what is this kind of plant? Is this anyway?
This is an arborvitae.
And it's been
sure it's variety.
it's been pruned, and that's a lot of maintenance on that. Something like
This
that.
is a high maintenance plant. It's worth it though because it does give a nice look for a house like this
Beautiful,
and this,
yeah.
and this type
Except
of
for when it gets
spot.
like this.
Yeah, this is no good.
Well, I really want to thank you today,
Okay.
Dan, and
Thank
your
you, Bud.
crew for
Okay.
helping us out, and Crystal,
Okay.
and the group back at the Larry and Carol back at the nursery.
Okay.
We had fun today.
Well,
Okay.
I had fun.
Okay. It's freezing out here today, 26 degrees, but we're going to spend as much time we could in the sun. You want to stay out of the shade, stay out of the wet areas, stay out of the wind. Pick your spot in the wintertime. It can be enjoyable, I promise. We're here with James Sanders Nursery today, showing you how to take care of your yard and get it ready for winter, how to plant shrubs, how to plant roses, a little bit about diseases and what have you. I hope you learned a lot. Tune in next time. Bud Qualk, Master Gardening. Tammy! I knew you were going to do that.